It began with a silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt wrong, the kind that clung to the hallway like static, hovered behind a front door left ajar, echoed in a phone that wouldn't ring, and stayed heavy in the window that never lit up. By the time the neighbors noticed the stillness, by the time someone finally knocked, by the time concern gave way to dread, Mara Vexley was already gone. And someone had been waiting for that moment. She thought it was just a date, a simple beginning. He thought it was destiny, something already written. But obsession doesn't wait for permission. It takes. This is Grimvault, where we unearth the stories time tried to forget, the ones buried deep in silence, waiting to be heard. At just 22, Mara Vexley moved through life with quiet gravity. She never chased the spotlight, but somehow it always seemed to find her. People noticed her without quite knowing why. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, or the calm that radiated from her without effort, like she had nothing to prove but everything to offer. She had just landed the job she used to dream about, the one she once doodled in her middle school notebooks, cosmetic consultant at Albrecht & Rowe, a cathedral of luxury nestled in the heart of Briarhurst. To Mara, beauty wasn't just about lipstick or creams. It was about transformation, about helping people feel confident, powerful, and seen. Her best friend, Elise Morgan, called her the quiet storm, and when asked why, she said she didn't know how magnetic she was. She'd walk into a room and the air would shift, but she never tried to make it happen. That was Mara. Shy, but unforgettable. She had just moved from her sleepy hometown of Ravensade to a cozy flat in East Harlow, sharing the space with 2 co-workers from the store. She called her mom nearly every night, kept a full calendar, carried an energy that felt unstoppable, and for the first time, she was truly thriving. By day, she offered perfume samples and luxury creams to shoppers in search of indulgence. By night, she laughed with her roommates under city lights, dreaming out loud about raises, romances, and what might come next. Then came a man she barely noticed at first, a silent shadow in uniform, always near the perfume floor. He said his name was Victor Savage. He spoke softly, watched closely. He was former military, from a country Mara had never even Googled. He worked security at the store, older, polished, quiet in a way that made you lean in, until it made you recoil. Something about him felt too still, too observant, like he was always waiting for a cue to move. He started hovering near her counter more than was necessary. At first, he was friendly, a little too friendly. Then he asked her out, and she was flattered, not because she was interested, but because the attention was unexpected. He told her she looked like art, said she moved like music. She didn't believe it, but it was still nice to hear. They grabbed coffee once, then again. 3 weeks passed, and that's all it took. What started as kindness began to shift, first quietly, then sharply. The messages came constantly, the compliments hardened into expectations, and his presence began to feel less charming and more suffocating. And if something about this moment feels familiar to you, if your gut is tightening right now, know that you are not alone. Stories like Mara's don't just happen, they are ignored, dismissed, and repeated until someone finally listens. If you believe these voices deserve to be heard, subscribe to Grimvault. We uncover what time tried to bury and what must never stay buried. It didn't take long for his attention to turn into control. Texts flooded in, dozens a day. He commented on her outfits, her shift times, her routes home. He started showing up unannounced, always just as she was about to leave work. Then one night she came home and found him already there, coffee in hand, smiling like he belonged. "If you report me, I'll disappear you," he said. At first she thought it had to be a joke, but it wasn't. She told her cousin Jules one night, over wine and frozen pizza. "He's everywhere," she said. "It's like he knows my schedule before I do. I feel like a caged bird, but the bars are invisible." She tried to end it. He said she was making a mistake. He begged, pleaded, swore he'd change. She blocked his number. But obsession doesn't respect boundaries. He kept showing up, not just at work and not just by chance. He began treating her doorstep like an invitation. Closer, bolder, with every visit. It was control disguised as devotion. After a short trip overseas, he returned with a demand. Meet me at the airport. 5 a.m. He didn't want to go, but she did. One oversized case, too heavy to drag through the city, he said. Let me stay, just one night. He stayed for 3. 3 nights of silence, tension, and sleep she never got. When he finally left, it wasn't relief that settled in, it was dread. Because now he knew where she lived, and worse, he knew how little she would push back. She thought the door was shut for good, but Victor didn't hear no. To him, no wasn't the end of something, it was the beginning of a siege. At work, he stopped hiding in the periphery and started using the department store's surveillance system, tracking her through mirrors, blind spots, and back corridors. Always watching. He'd radio other guards, one employee recalled, ask where she was, pretend it was routine. It wasn't. He began asking co-workers to pass along messages, claiming Mara was just confused, that she needed to hear him out. Some believed him. Mara didn't. She saw the man clearly now, and what she saw terrified her. One night, she lingered at her counter longer than usual, reorganizing samples, maybe hoping he would be gone when she finally stepped outside, but he was already there, waiting, still and silent outside the staff exit, hidden by the dark. The bag he had brought back from the airport, the one he said was too heavy to carry, he had never taken it home. She didn't hear him at first, only a breath, a subtle shift in the air, a shape behind her that didn't belong, and then a hand, cold and deliberate, resting on her shoulder, her body locked. Her instincts screamed. She turned and there he was, Victor Savage. Smiling like this was a scene from a romantic comedy instead of a nightmare. I love you, he whispered. And I know you love me too. Mara froze. No, Victor, she said. I don't. I never did. His voice dropped. Yes, you do, you stupid little girl. And just like that, the city didn't feel big anymore. Her world had narrowed to one pair of eyes, always watching. Mara didn't go to the police, not then. He hadn't hit her, and part of her felt ashamed. She'd let him in, just a little. 3 casual dates, 3 weeks. Now it felt like she was locked inside a fortress with no doors. She told only 2 people, her mother, Tara, and her cousin, Jules. They knew things were getting worse, but no one imagined just how far it would go. I don't think she told me everything, Jules would later say. She felt stupid, like she should have seen it coming. At work, Mara's focus collapsed. Victor was always near. In corners, mirrors, shadows, reflections had turned into surveillance. She skipped meals, fell behind on sales, her eyes were bloodshot from sleepless nights. He was everywhere, the underground, the evening train, her doorstep. She'd come home and he'd be outside, her flatmate said, just staring, sometimes for hours. He sent 50 texts a day, not asking how she was, but reminding her what they were. You're mine, you just forgot, we'll be together again. And then he escalated. If I can't have you, no one will. I'll kill myself. And it'll be your fault. Mara tried to downplay it, tried to normalize what was clearly unraveling, but she was coming undone. One night after her shift, she stepped into the subway and froze. He was there. Again. She turned and he followed. They both boarded the same train. He sat across from her, silent, staring. Then he leaned forward and said, "Stop pretending. You love me." She stood and tried to leave, but he grabbed her, shoved her. And that's when she found her voice. "If you don't leave me alone, I'll report you." He leaned in closer, his breath on her cheek. "If you report me, I will kill you." That night, she collapsed, crying to her mother on the phone, still unsure if police would even take her seriously. Mara and Tara didn't know what to do. Would reporting him help or make it worse? They didn't know who to trust, and Mara felt shame, felt stupid. She hadn't told her friends. Most didn't even know Victor existed. "I had no idea," one friend said. "She was that private." Maybe. That scared. Her flatmates had reached their limit. They went to store management. Victor was moved to a different floor, different hours. But it didn't matter. He still appeared. He still watched. The head of security, a former homicide detective, installed covert cameras. Within days, the truth was confirmed. Mara was being hunted. Then came the moment he asked a coworker over lunch, "What's the sentence for murder in the UK?" That was it. No more doubt. It was time. They convinced Mara, "Go to the police." And she did. She told them everything, the threats, the stalking, the endless texts, the way he hovered, followed, cornered her. Victor Savage was arrested at work, right in front of Mara, 2 officers. No struggle, no words, just a look and a smile. "She called me crying," Tara later said. Even then, she felt guilty, like she'd done something wrong. He was charged, given a restraining order, told to stay away. But the system let him walk. 4 days later, he was back, standing outside Mara's new flat in South Briarhurst, smiling. The police were called, he vanished. Days later, he returned again. This time, Mara rode with the officers until she spotted him on a side street. He was arrested again, and again, he smiled. This time, he was charged with making threats to kill, but even then he was granted bail. Again. Only this time, he didn't wait around. He fled the UK. While Mara tried to heal, Victor disappeared. This time to Romania. There, he trained at a private shooting facility, reinstated his military credentials, and, under Romanian law, legally acquired a 9mm pistol. Registered, legal, controlled. Back in London, Mara escaped to Florence, Italy with her mother, a breath of calm after months of fear. They spent 5 perfect days together. "She danced to the silliest music," Tara said, "and for the first time in months, I saw my daughter again." But while Mara was in Italy finding peace for the first time in months, Victor boarded a coach bound for England. In his black duffel bag, a loaded gun, and a plan. He should never have crossed the border, not with a criminal record, not after everything he'd already done. But Victor Savage slipped through. No alerts, no flags, no stops. He returned to Briarhurst, a ghost, with a weapon and unfinished business. Mara was trying to rebuild, trying to breathe again. Just one shadow remained, his upcoming sentencing for harassment. One day in court, one final confrontation. She dreaded it. But she had no idea he would never let her have that day. Just days before the hearing, her phone buzzed with news she had prayed for. "Mom, I can finally put this nightmare to bed." Victor had changed his plea. Guilty. No trial, no testimony, no face-to-face. She emailed her cousin Jules. "He admitted it. They'll believe me now. And for the first time in weeks." She smiled. "I'll pay my fine," Victor told the court. "Do my hours, whatever, just get it over with." But the system gave him a window. He walked free. And all the while, he was watching. August 26th. Tuesday. The day had been ordinary, quiet, almost peaceful. Mara arrived early for her evening shift at Albrecht and Row, wrapped in soft pink and wearing a calm, easy smile. By 7:50 p.m., the crowd had thinned. The lights dimmed, and the store slipped into its familiar closing hush. At the beauty counter, Mara laughed with a coworker, chatted about weekend plans, and finally breathed easy. 10 minutes to go," her friend whispered. Mara smiled, radiant, relaxed, a smile no one would forget. Security had been briefed. They were watching. But Victor didn't come through the front. He slipped in through a back service corridor, a shadow with purpose. High on cocaine, pupils blown wide, movements controlled and unnervingly calm, he walked straight toward the perfume floor. A colleague saw him first, and for just a second, it looked like a boyfriend surprising her after work. Then came the glint, the gun, and time stopped. He raised the weapon, placed it behind her head, and pulled the trigger. Mara crumpled before she hit the floor. Then came 3 more shots into her face. Deliberate. Final. The music stopped. Shoppers screamed. Security dove for cover. He turned the barrel to the ceiling, fired once more, then lowered the gun beneath his chin and pulled the trigger. Mara Vexley died at the scene. She was 22. The shock spread like thunder, rippling through homes, headlines, and every heart that knew her. When it happened to Mara, her mother Tara remembered, "I was out with friends. The knock came just after midnight. 2 officers. I saw their faces and I just knew. They said, 'She's been shot.' And I said, 'It was Victor, wasn't it?' The officer only nodded. Tara couldn't sit still, couldn't stay silent, and she learned quickly she wasn't alone. 3 other mothers, 3 other daughters, all taken by men who stalked them until it was too late. Together they formed a movement. Protection Against Stalking was born, not just a charity, but a warning cry. No one could ignore a mother who had lost her daughter, Tara said. We wouldn't let them ignore us. She partnered with criminal psychologist Dr. Laura Kess, who had been lobbying for change for years. Together they demanded what the law had never done, to name stalking as a crime. They met with ministers, held press conferences, stood on the steps of Parliament, and it worked. For the first time in UK law, stalking had a name and a consequence. The law wasn't strong enough, Dr. Kess said. Women were being murdered in slow motion. Today, thousands of people contact the National Stalking Helpline every year, searching not just for advice but for belief, for reassurance, for someone to say, "You are not overreacting." Mara's cousin, Jules, now works with them, and her message is clear. If someone's watching, following, or trying to control you, say something. Don't wait for bruises to prove you're in danger. Mara thought she had to be bleeding before anyone would take her seriously. Mara Vexley won't be forgotten, not just because of how she died, but because of what she changed. Her mother, Tara, still travels the country. She speaks in rooms full of strangers, sharing her daughter's story and the warning that came with it. "I'll keep doing this work as long as I have breath," Tara said, "because it's still happening, and I want the next girl to make it home." Subscribe to Grim Vault, your descent into the stories time tried to bury, where truth hides in plain sight and the shadows speak louder than silence. Because the only way forward is through the dark.